It's time to clean up some sort of loose ends, and one of the most annoying loose ends is having to keep typing standard : whatever before, say, cout. This is the namespace std, and the functionality that comes from the standard library is all in this namespace, which is wonderful. It means that I can call my classes whatever I like. If I want to write a string class, I can write a string class, and I'll be able to tell them apart by talking about standard string and Kate's Great Library : string, and it'd be possible to mix and match them in the same application without any confusion. And that is fantastic. It means that no words are really reserved. String is available to be the name of your class, as long as you don't mind confusion in the minds of other developers. Everything that's part of the standard library is inside the standard namespace, and you can have things with exactly the same name in your namespace if you want. My problem is with having to type the name of the namespace every single time I use these classes when I haven't written my own string or my own console out. Well, of course, I don't have to. Of course, there's a mechanism to get around it. And it's as simple as calling it out like this. I can say, for example, I will be using from the standard library cout. Or I will be using from the standard library endl. And if I do that, then I can come down here and just call them cout and endl. Now that in itself is a big improvement. This isn't any kind of directive about going and picking certain things out of the larger library. It doesn't change the size of my executable, for example. It's simply a convenience to the compiler. I'm saying whenever you see just plain cout, I mean std : cout. I mean the standard cout. I just don't want to type its whole name every time. When you're going to use a number of things from the same namespace, it can get kind of tiring to keep adding more things. So there's another approach. I can come into, say, the person class, where I'm using both cout and I'm also using string. I could come here and say, using the entire namespace std. Having done that, I can now go through and take away in front of every string, as well as in front of cout and endl. And you can see I don't have any red wigglies. The compiler is fine with that. Now there are some languages in which using has a different meaning. It has to do with controlling scope. We have brace brackets for scope. Using never has anything to do with scope. Using is only about these namespace directives. It doesn't link new code in or add new references, anything. It's simply telling the compiler, when I say cout, and you think, huh, I don't know what you're talking about, quick go and see if it's std : cout. And if it is, we're both happy. So it's basically what the compiler does with identifiers it doesn't immediately recognize, like string, cout, and endl in this example. Sometimes people want to put this using namespace whatever in a header file. That is a bad plan. Right now, I can use person and still have my own string class. Person works with standard strings. My code could work with my own strings. The minute there's a using namespace standard inside person, now everyone who wants to use person has to agree not to have collisions with something that is in std. And that's too big a thing to ask. You can do it in a CPP file. Don't do it in an H file. In a header file, you can call everything out by its full name or have individual using statements like the ones we had here for individual parts of the standard namespace. But I prefer to see those using namespace whatevers only in CPP files and not in H files. Now my code looks a little neater, has a little less punctuation in it, and I think it's easy to understand and read it as long as you can remember cout is from the standard library, string is from the standard library, but person and tweeter are not. They're no longer being decorated as being different. Now, of course, Visual Studio will help you, so if I hover over person, it shows me that it's just class person, but if I hover over, say, string in here, oh, it's got a big long definition, and it's got std::: in its definition. It's a reminder that this is the standard string from the standard library.